What's up, everybody? This is Missy from Lansing Hoops and Learn to Hoop at Home, and today we are covering simple things that you can do to be a more effective flow teacher. So this week we're going to cover a simple technique that you can use to help you teach different skill levels in one class or workshop. So this is something I like to do in the beginning of my classes. If it's a weekly class or something that I'm doing on a regular basis, this is the way that I arrange all of my classes, and my students begin to understand where they should stand in the classroom each week. And if it's a workshop where I've never seen these people before or might only ever see them one time, then I ask them to arrange themselves this way in the beginning of the class. It's very simple. It works like this. If I'm teaching you and you're part of my class today, what I would say is, today we're going to be covering core hooping, if that's the technique. You'd announce what the broad technique is that you're teaching. What I'd like to do before we get started is arrange everybody into beginner, intermediate, and advanced so that it's a little easier for everyone to see what's going on. So if you're a beginner core hooper, if you're someone who hasn't done a lot of core hooping before, I want you to come over to this side of the room over here. And if you're an intermediate hooper, I'd like you to stand in the middle of the room, and all of you advanced hoopers, you're going to be over here on my right. Okay, so at this stage, you're going to get a couple of questions about how to define beginner, intermediate, and advanced, and it does not really matter. The whole purpose of this is to not put a specific label on people, but to make it so that when you're talking to a group, you have everyone who's at about the same skill level in one location in the room, so that you don't have to yell and that people on the other side of the room aren't missing something important. So you can give them loose details. When I do my course workshop, I might say, you're a beginner hooper if you've never waist hooped before, or you're only waist hooping and you can't really do much else, like core hooping or shoulder hooping or anything like that. If you can waist hoop, shoulder hoop, chest hoop, neck hoop, and spiral up and down your body with your hoop, you're advanced. If you feel like you're somewhere in the middle of those two things, you'll be an intermediate hooper. And don't worry, you can change your spot anytime during the class. This is just so it's easy for me to talk to you. Okay, so at this stage, you're going to tell everybody that their spot doesn't matter, and that's going to relax everyone so that they're not worried about how they've already been labeled before they've even got started on their hoop technique. You let them know it doesn't matter, and that if they feel like they need to change, they can. So then, after that, you introduce your technique at a very basic level, and this is where you're going to go over the basis of that technique, and it applies to everyone in the room. So for my core hooping workshop, we'll say, today we're going to cover core, and what I'm going to do is go over some basics first. So I want everybody to put their hoop on their waist, and then I go into that technique, and I'll say then, okay, for all of you beginner hoopers, I want you to work on that while I go and talk to the other side of the room, and I'll be back to check on you in a minute. Okay, you leave them to work on that very basic technique that you just taught. They don't know that yet at the same level as this other side of the room. So they will feel just fine practicing only that for a few minutes, while you then walk over to the advanced side of the room or the intermediate side of the room. I like to go up the aisle just like that, starting with beginner. Then we go to intermediate, and then that way the intermediate and the advanced hoopers can listen to the next skill level, and then so on and so forth, and they can kind of place themselves based on the technique that you're teaching. So for the core hooping, you teach that basic waist hooping for the beginners, and then in the intermediate section, I'll go on to chest hooping and shoulder hooping and the beginning of spiraling up and down your body. And then when I get to the advanced hoopers, I'll show them some different techniques, perhaps nose hooping, ankle hooping, or full body spiral, some things that are a little bit more advanced. Meanwhile, by the time I've gotten done talking to the advanced hoopers about what they need to practice, the beginners will have either started to master the technique that you gave them, or they'll be feeling some frustration because they haven't mastered it. So that gives you the opportunity to leave the advanced hoopers and the intermediate hoopers to work on what you've just told them and go back to the beginning. And again, everybody's over here in one section so that you can talk to everyone at the same time, and everybody benefits from the tips that you're giving that group and that skill level. So this is something that you can do to get your group organized really easily so that it's a lot more effective for you to teach different skill levels in one class. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments. Subscribe to the channel today because we are going to have more tips and tricks to be a more effective flow teacher coming out over the next few weeks. See you then.